friends, welcome back to the Blizzard ANZ StarCraft 2 Pro League. It's already heating up here with SYF 1 point on the board. I'm Zeph, with me is my friend Death, and we are going to be hopping into Neon Violet Square. So tell me about this match, Death.
It's one of the newer maps in the map pool. It's got some very creative use of space, especially around the middle of the map. So it's one of my favorite maps aesthetically, and it's got a really cool sort of layout from the main to the third, and there's a real interesting choice about which third do you actually take. So there's a lot of things about the map that I really like, and there's a lot of things about the players that will be playing on this map that I really like. I mean, we've got Seither, who's on any given day probably the best Terran that we have in Australia and just like Southeast Asia in general. And Demi is one of the best, I'd say maybe like top 3 pretty solid Zergs in our region as well. So I think that whoever wins this is going to determine how the rest of the night goes. If Demi can win this, then maybe, just maybe, OSC have a chance. But if Demi loses this, I think this is just 3-0. SYF's going to clean sweep.
Might be a little bit rough, but I guess we'll soon find out. Demi is generally a pretty confident player. He practices really hard and tends to come in with a good mindset, like, yeah, I'm going to get him this time. And that's only a benefit to him going up against someone like Seither, who is a literal WCS champion.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it's on paper, it is hard to beat Seither's impressive record. But I do have faith that Demi can do it. He's wanted Igus's head for the longest time, and he's come into WCS going like, I'm going to knock him out of the tournament, confirmed and stuff. So hopefully he has some strong ZVT powers for this match.
He intimidated Igus so much that Igus switched race and joined his team. So now they can't possibly compete. All right, let's introduce him though. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing in the red for TT SYF Gaming, it's Seither. It's definitely Seither. It's not Seither.
And in the top left, representing OSC Elite, this is Demi. What?
All right, so starting things off, Seither getting the gas first. Probably going to open up with a Reaper. There's a couple of things I've been seeing on this new patch, by the way, Zeph. Not really opening up with any Ravens nowadays because they're just pretty underwhelming. And I've seen a lot more players favor mech over bio. I don't think that we're going to see that here because Seither is generally or historically been such a strong bio player. But there's always that chance in the back of my mind, and I nerd out over mech kind of like Artosis does.
Yeah, keen to see what Seither decides to do. I mean, like, he's typically a bio player, right? I'm not sure if that's changed recently since the new patch. We have seen those sort of like Cyclone perks and whatnot, but I'm feeling like a pretty straight up sort of medevac drop based playstyle from Seither. I guess we'll see. As a side note, I can't believe that we called him Seither for so long that it's just normal now, and he never corrected us to be like, actually, Seither. I didn't know till his WCS interviews, and then I felt kind of bad.
Well, he's stuck with it now. Yeah. He's going to keep his chin up high. One thing that's kind of cool as well, maybe some people that are out there watching haven't seen this kind of map architecture before. Over here in the middle of the map, and these kind of pink elevated squares, that's unpassable, but small units can kind of shuffle their way between those. So a siege tank can't fit, but Reapers and Roaches and Zerglings and things can. So when you get into that chaotic sort of mid-game, these little blockers become very interesting for how units path around the map.
Yeah,
it's a cool feature. We could see that come into play.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because Terrans can get some nice trades in there. You know, if they're microing Marines back and Lings and Beans funnel through there, like, delicious. But yeah, I actually quite like that feature of the map. This Reaper getting a little fresh there, but he does get himself a Ling, gets on out.
I can't wait until someone on Reddit comes across and like makes a GIF of Marines going through those blockers and Banelings chasing them, and just like all the Banelings getting cleaned up like a pachinko machine. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet indeed. And that's you can tell that's a Terran Mind fantasy coming out of you there right
Oh
now.
yeah.
As a Zerg player, I wouldn't be quite as thrilled, but you know, appreciate the gross things when they happen. Sometimes you have no choice.
Gross is in the eye of the beholder.
It is. That's true. So Demi, just chilling at the moment, keeping his drone count up. He's actually going for the Overlord speed, and his Ling speed's about to kick in here as well. Grabbing that third base towards the southern position, as that back corner base has far fewer minerals on it. It's not quite enough going into the mid game if you really want that bulky economy.
Nice scout from Seither. What's interesting to me is that he's going for a medivac and getting cloak at the same time. So now Demilove, he's got the speed on his Overlord. He thinks, oh, this is just cloak banshees. But once Seither gets rid of the Overlord, he could cancel that cloak if he wants to, or he could commit and go into a banshee. Either option is fine. So it gives him a little bit of flexibility. It makes his build a little bit more dynamic, giving him those choices. He's not going to be making a banshee, though, I feel. He is following up with a Liberator, which is a decent choice as well.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I always, for some reason in my head, I'm like, yeah, Caesar's gonna drop Hellions or he's gonna drop Marines. And I always think Marines is more likely, but these Hellions are gonna come in here into the main, and they may very well mirror some drones. It looks like Demi's in position here, so he might have to come back later. Yeah. And maybe things can get a little stickier once that Liberator comes into play. He can pull him in a couple of directions at once. Not to mention he has another 4 Hellions just sliding out into the field there as well.
He certainly does. The Liberator is now out, so he'll be able to strike multiple lines at the same time. No armory yet, though, for Seither, so he's got to be a little bit careful. Demilove is the kind of player that loves to throw down that Roach Warren and just mass a hell of a lot of Roaches very, very quickly. Now, this is cool. We're seeing more factories. It's going to be mech coming out of our turn play.
What? What? He plays mech now? Okay, awesome.
New patch feels.
New patch feels indeed. All right. Well, I'm keen to see this strut his stuff and see if he can mech it happen. We've got one Liberator starting to chip away here, but the Spore Crawler does move to give it some hell, so I'm not sure if he actually... Did he kill anything with that one? Doesn't look like he managed to get anything just yet.
Yeah, he didn't quite get anything. He almost killed a queen, but it wasn't to be. Seither's got a couple of Hellions positioned over here towards the third base and over here around the natural, just basically denying creep at this point. He's got to be careful. He doesn't want to lose that Liberator, but he does. That's an expensive blow, and Demilove's defense is looking impeccable.
It is, with all these extra queens for that juicy creep thread. And that Hellion defense as well in turn. It's going to make it a little harder to control that creep. And Seither, of course, wants to make sure that it doesn't get too far out of hand so that it's not a nightmare to push into when he actually wants to come in for an attack. Now, he does have an armory, so these can also become Hellbats. And he's slowly pushing forward to clean up the creep towards that natural base through the main path. This also clears up any sort of pathway to creeping over to the golds, because gold base is always nice to grab on this map. But yeah, at the moment, still mostly just doing that sort of self-contained with these Hellions, keeping an eye on things. And back at home, he's grabbing his own third base.
Yeah, he certainly is. Seither is going for the new upgrade, which allows his units to transform a little bit faster. Going for a couple of Thors as well. You know what I think we might see here, Zach? Might see double Thor drops.
Oof.
No, I haven't seen that in a little while, but it's actually very, very powerful. Viking gets cleaned up, but does take out one Overlord. Almost supply blocks Demi for the time being. Now, a double drop with Thors could be exceptional at taking out a fourth base if Seither can just kind of lure the rest of the Zerg units, maybe around to the natural, threaten a run-by with these Hellions. He's got a lot of options, and Demilove's got to be so careful.
I love watching the Hellions go through that thing.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my goodness. And a smart... It is. A smart
Oh,
server's
here we
coming
go.
in. Oh my god, you called it. This is actually so awesome. Double Thor drop coming in. Let's see how much damage he can do. It's kind of not something you really expect yet either. And Demi's sticking with ye old Lingbane Hydra, which, you know, it's still pretty good against mech. Even if you don't know mech's coming, which is the nice thing about it, I guess. But this is starting to get a bit of a beefy force. Oh my god, they transform fast.
Yeah, they certainly do. And does force the cancel on the fourth base, so a nice trade so far. Neither player really wants to commit to an engagement, but a drop comes out at the same time. There's no blue flame yet, but he's still going to be able to get quite a few of these drones if he focus fires, and he does. Maybe gets, I think that was 4. So a decent trade. Seither and Demilov are neck and neck in the economy, but Seither has those mules, so you've got to give a slight advantage to him in that regard. He's also up about 20 supply. So looking good for our Mengjo.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a pretty chill time at home, right? Like, Demi's just kept his stuff in his base and given him a lot of space. Oh, okay, that said, he is actually starting to do some cheeky stuff with some Baneling drops on the work line. He didn't get too many just yet, only 8 kills, but if he keeps doing this, those kills can definitely start to add up.
Yeah, he gets another couple on the right-hand side there, more annoying than anything, and Seither does have to replenish those. He's also got to be careful because he's only seen 2 Banelings drop out of that, so another 2 could actually be in that Overlord right now for all our Terran player knows. He's kind of puckering up a little bit, but he makes the right call and goes back and mines. And things are looking pretty even. I'm liking this game, man. Yeah,
and Demi's starting to get to that point where Hive's out. He's got Viper's about to finish here. He's getting 2 upgrades, which is just slightly behind that of Seither's, at least in the attack. And he's grabbing a Spire and whatnot. So we can start getting some of that really sick tier 3 tech out and getting the tools that he needs to be able to pull apart the Terran army, because Seither is going to end up with that big mech ball that is basically impossible to deal with unless you can sort of chip away at it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Doors, as the game goes on now, are very, very strong. He can add those in the late game, but we might even see some starports and kind of a new sort of style with the new Raven, because that could be a good way to bat Vipers, because you can use the interference matrix. I actually got the name right this cast on it to shut them down. The double Thor drop just takes out that Overlord, doesn't want any more drops. And Blue Flame's going to be finished too.
Yeah, true. And a couple more Vikings in the mix, and they're going to help when the, what do you call them? The Vipers coming, because you can snipe those before they wreak too much havoc. That's quite nice. That is quite the army of Hellions, I must say. It's very speedy too. The rest of the army actually playing catch up a little bit here, but Seither, being maxed out, is ready to rock and roll and see if he can do some damage over at Demi's house. And he's got a lot of buffer for these tanks, a good couple of Thors in there for some extra meat. Let's see how he goes pushing into this 4th base location.
Yeah, and at the same time, Seither is using his Liberators to set up decent siege positions on the opposing mineral line, so he'll be doing economic damage while he pushes in the front, making it difficult for Demilov to divide his attention. Meanwhile, Demilov is moving around the right-hand side with these units. He's going to try and find a way in with these Banelings, but they're not going to be able to do much at all. Great walls. Some of the SCVs will fall, and it's the Zerglings that'll be the story here, while Seither has to come back with some of his Hellions and bang. But this push is not going away anytime soon.
No, it's not a yank on that Thor there. Gets taken out almost immediately. One blinding cloud there on the left. 2 more tanks pulled into the front lines. And the Hydra DPS is doing so much work here on Seither's army. And it looks like he will be able to clean it up. Doesn't want to go too far off creep though, because that's kind of hard to place distance. There's still a decent tank spread here, although the bulkiest part of the army has been taken out. And it looks like he managed to deal with the Liberators as well.
Yeah, he sure did. Now, the good thing for Seither is that Demi doesn't have the income to really invest into Corruptors and Broodlords right now. As soon as that happens, Seither's in a pretty awkward position because he'll frantically need to throw down a bunch of starports and go for a lot of Vikings. He's kind of already getting to that stage, but you don't want to have to mass Vikings until you're +3 weapons and armor, so that you can go for shoot weapons as well. Seither's got a 4th base up on the right-hand side and going up for a 5th too, so if he can hold this gold, hold that base on the right-hand side, he can then hope to survive that endgame zone transition.
Yeah, and he's also starting to throw small clusters of Hellions and Hellbats at these bases, seeing if he can do more economic damage. Seither, though, losing some stuff in the front lines here as Demi pushes forward, grabbing those tanks into the army with the Vipers. Hydras are able to take out one more on the left-hand side here, and Demi's doing a decent job at keeping him at bay, but like you said, he doesn't have a whole lot of money, so we've got a few Corruptors coming out right now, but he still doesn't have that Zerg ball that he's usually after just yet, though. Seither has had to back up, and this is going to give him that breathing room that he needs.
I want to see some Thors from Seither. I don't think the tanks are going to be able to do very much else this game. He's got a good count. A couple more would be fine, but if he keeps making tanks instead of Thors, Hydra, Viper, Broodlord army is just going to roll over him. He's kind of on a timer. He needs to react and find out what's happening. He gets the scan down. He does see the Corruptors. So now I think we're going to see some starports coming down.
Yeah. And once that happens, like, he's going to be looking pretty good on the upgrade front if he gets the army composition that he needs, because they're already heading into 3-3. The +3 weapons is about to finish, whereas Demi's sitting at 2-0 on the ground, I think, for the range, and he's mostly focusing on those Sky units, upgrading those now. So that's definitely valuable, because that's where his army is headed, and he will need that to compete with the Terran. But I do like his position if he starts getting that mix with a few more Thors and a few more A units, like you mentioned in. At the moment, it doesn't look like he has added any more starports.
He has got +3 weapons for the Thors. He's getting the upgrades for ship weapons. What concerns me now is he hasn't taken his gas over here at the 4th, hasn't taken his gas at the 5th. So it's kind of difficult for him to invest in both the Thors and the starports. So whether that's an oversight or whether he's figured something out about where he's going to position his units in the next fight, I'm not 100% sure. But it's going to be cool to see these armies clash. And Seither won't want to wait too much longer before pushing out a peak. He's just going to try and go for a meal.
Yeah, pushing forward on that creep, taking out a few tumors on the way. On the left there with just some Hellbats. Those are pretty disposable, and really just something else for Demi to think about while the main bulk of the army moves up through the middle here. Now, Broodlords have been spotted there. They're used also to kill those Hellbats. So how is Seither going to use this army to get what he needs out of this attack? Because that's still mostly tanks, right? The air army's starting to beef up a little bit. That's a lot of Vipers with a lot of energy too, and he's trying to run away right now.
Oh, he is. The tanks actually won't do too badly in that position because he didn't have siege mode. So he can walk away. A reasonable amount of damage to Demilov, taking an excellent fight. Great trades and great cost efficiency. He can join a few more units as we go on to retreat. The Thor instantly transforming into that payload mode. Destroying some more Vipers, a couple of shots going down, and looks like Demilov is going to try and keep pushing forward. And it's just about the Thors right now. No extra starports, but 5 Thors at a time. It's been a long time since I've seen that many Thors in the production tab.
Yeah, and that's actually a lot of firepower. Especially if you got SCVs in the mix, repairing them as he's trying to hold on to what he's got. Unfortunately, SCVs against Broodlings is not the best fight for those little fellas to be taking. And one of the Thors gets yanked there. A huge swell links coming in though from Demi to try and help buffer underneath these Broodlords and really push the issue here at Seither's 4th base. Now, he still has that 5th base up and running, but as the Thors start to come in, he will be able to put some shots on those Broodlords and see if he can start taking some of these out.
Great transfuses, great fight so far from both players. Seither and Demilov are neck and neck when it comes to the army supply, but it looks like the Broodlords are just going to be a little bit too much as the Hydras focus firing down the Thors. There are a couple more Thors coming up though. They do get that fast transform. Only 4 more Broods left in the skies, and the tanks are doing excellent work against the Hydras. The SCV repair has been absolutely critical, keeping that extra Thor alive. But it looks like Demi might have just done it. He might have just broken Seither here. And Seither is left without a fantastic economy. Meanwhile, Demi has got a 6th base up sort of in this middle gold base.
Yeah, that went pretty well for Demi. I mean, it's not ideal to be fighting unsieged tanks against a Hydra Broodlord army like that. He actually cleaned up way more than I expected there, and Demi needs a moment to morph some more Broods in. Another 7, in fact. And he doesn't have a lot of buffer underneath it, but the fact that Seither can't really seem to contest this air army is a bit rough, and this CC can't even land for a new base either because Corruptors are on that, and with their abilities they might be able to kill that. In fact, Humans coming in to the third as well, trying to wreak some havoc in there. They do get cleaned up, but Seither's really pinned back in his base.
Seither's kind of got one more chance to make something happen here. He needs to establish another base on the right-hand side. He needs to get a huge Thor count. Most of his army is just going to be Thors. Anything else is just run by coming in here. It's not going to really do that much damage. Spineclaw is in a good position. Queen, the Banelings, and the Zerglings are seeing that up. And both players are sitting at 67 workers. I just don't know if that run by is the right choice. You need those Hellions, you need those Hellbounds to sit in the front and take some damage.
And at this point, Demi has killed himself 57 workers in this game so far. Now, Seither has gotten 33, but up until that last little run by, Demi was still sitting on 82 drones. Like, he's got money for days. In fact, it's mostly minerals that he needs, and he's just got that gold base up and running. So, you know, he's looking pretty good. He's pretty comfy right now. Now, see that securing that more northward base is going to be really good if he can hold on to that. But the army that Demi is growing is just, I don't know. There's so many Broodlords in there. There's 13 at the moment, and he's still making Corruptors, still morphing more.
Broods are good, but I feel like at some point you've got to stop making them and go for something else. You might want to gear up for like a different transition, maybe going to Ultras or Infestors or something else. But when Seither hits this max supply that he is now, he's got a lot of Thors. He's got 11 Thors, and they're going to be able to start one-shotting those Broods with the army well, the armor that they have. They'll be able to survive for quite a long time, especially with these Hellbats. See if you can keep these alive. Here comes the push, though. Let's see what happens.
The Transfuse is already starting to go off on these Broods. That's a lot of firepower from the Broodlords if they can stay in the sky. The Thors are trying to target them down, but they're getting taken out by the Broodlings so quickly, even with minimal stuff on the ground outside of those air units. And Seither's actually just got to back right up at the same time. Lings are in his bases, chewing down SCVs and supply depots alike, and Seither is in full retreat.
Yeah, he sure is. He just doesn't have enough in the sky, I think. He's missing a core part of his army, which would be in Vikings. The tanks just haven't done anything since about 10 minutes ago. Really kind of just being dead supplies, not doing any damage for Demi, who's really just had these 3 units of these Zerglings, and now Demi is raining Broodlings down from the sky. And it looks like Seither is done. GG. Demi ties up the series.
Very nicely done from Demi, looking very strong there. Good macro. Goes all the way up to Broodlords and smacks Seither down. And that's the first time I've seen Seither play mech too, which is interesting for me. And he did all right, but that air army he just couldn't contest with, especially once he didn't have a lot left and Demi's hitting him in a couple of places, like with a mech army, you're not that mobile. So very well done to Demi, evens it up 1-1 for his team OSC Elite, which means that we're going to be heading into the next ZVZ shortly between Mighty Kiwi and Aegis. Now, are you team Mighty Kiwi for that match?
Yes. I feel like Mighty Kiwi's maybe going to go 13-12 and just test the waters. And I'm not sure that Aegis can beat it or just beat Mighty Kiwi in general. But we'll see. I'm happy to be proven wrong. It might be that Aegis is expecting Mighty Kiwi to do something aggressive. So then Mighty Kiwi knows that Aegis is expecting that and then does something completely different. Like, I don't know what these players are thinking. And I also don't know how often they run into each other on ladder. It should be known that Aegis has reached GM on Korea with his Zerg. So he's definitely not a slouch. He's very, very good. Yeah. But I think that Mighty Kiwi's just got that wealth of experience and just the sheer amount of games that he's played in this matchup. You've got to mark him as the clear favorite.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think he's the favorite, but I am going to give Aegis the benefit of the doubt. He surprised me before, so I'm going to go with Aegis for this one.
All right.
I may be proven wrong, but
Sure.
yeah,
Makes
I
things
guess
interesting.
it does. It does. So, guys, as always, we'll take a quick couple of minutes break, get that lobby set up, and be back with a ZVZ between Mighty Kiwi and I guess let your friends know that this is on, and don't go away because we'll be words. We'll be back soon.